What is up, everyone, and happy Sunday to you. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Danny Show. I'm your host, Dan Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. Thank you guys so much for joining. Last night, we had a great episode of WWE NXT No Mercy. It was a spectacular event to me. I thought the fans were very interested, like the Black and Gold days, at least with some of the actions they it seemed like the crowd was of NXT with the way they chanted NXT and they were pretty loud for most of it. Now I think Black and Gold is a lot louder, but this almost gave me Black and Gold vibes with the energy that the fans, the NXT universe as they call it, were given. And we started off the night with Baron Corbin versus Braun Breaker. This match came after Braun Breaker did some pretty disturbing things to Von Wagner. I'll get to that in a minute. We saw um, Baron Corbin come to the ring like The Undertaker. That's original. Um, we saw Braun Breaker sit up like The Undertaker. Apparently, both these guys are fans of The Undertaker. Corbin riding like The Undertaker. Braun Breaker sitting up like The Undertaker after going through the table and then going for spears and everything. But nonetheless, due to outside interferences from Von Wagner's manager, Robert Stone, at least Robert Stone is managing someone who can win. But um, after Robert Stone's interference, Corbin comes in and goes for the 1, 2, 3. And I think they're making Corbin into an anti hero like character. Let's see where that goes. But that was as chaotic of a start. I thought it was going to be like Kane and Undertaker from SummerSlam, where they just fought all over the place and the match never officially started. SummerSlam 2000, I'm talking of. Then on this next match, I really enjoyed this. We have Simp 19 Dom and versus Trick Williams. And for those of you who are new to the show, in humor, I always refer to Dominic as Simp 19 because he turned on his father in a heelish way all over his mommy. And I thought the sign in the audience was very funny that said, Dom wants his mommy. That was hilarious. And apparently we're in an age of culture now where you call someone mommy when you find them very, very attractive. Okay, no problem there. But in any event, Simp 19 Dom, who as always gets the best booze. Wait a minute. Now Dominic has, or should I say, Lockhold Dom has attention now because competition rather because Simp 19 gets booed every time he tries to talk aggressively. Paul Heyman got booed pretty loudly on SmackDown this past Friday. And then you have Don Callis on AEW. He gets booed like crazy with Sammy Guevara. They both get booed. And by the way, speaking of which, Wrestle Dream is tonight. And speaking of AEW's Don Callis, is it just me or does Don Callis' music sound like an Incubus subliminal? But in any event, moving forward, this was a great match. I love how fans are behind Trick Williams. The way they serenade his theme with the whoop that and Booker T going along with that is pure gold to me. Nonetheless, this was a good match. And eventually, despite two referees, including the first special guest one, Dragon Lee, being accidentally knocked out, despite the two referees being knocked out, Trick Williams won the match cleanly and is now the NXT North American champion. And now when Simp 19 gets home, I know this is not something the best thing to think about, but when Simp 19 gets home, is Rhea gonna cane him, whip him, or lock him in them little tiny little cages that? But either way, Dominic is in for some long, some kind of punishments, not punishments, when he gets back home to Rhea. It's gonna be crazy. I mean, he's gonna get caned. He's gonna get punished by Mistress Rhea. Moving forward, I love how fans are behind Trick Williams, and I'm so happy for him to be the NXT North American champion. We have a fatal four-way match between Don and Stacks, the NXT Tag Team Champions. By the way, for those of you who saw my last NXT review, my previous one, where Don came out with a rat Titantron, I just want to say thank you, Don, for not coming out with rats. I hate rats. I hate rats like Undertaker hates cucumbers. Sonic the Hedgehog hates mushrooms. I hate the sight of rats, even on screen. They just, ugh, I hate rats. But in any event, thank you for having a different Titantron entrance, Don and Stacks. It was Tony D'Angelo who got injured early. And may I just say, sometimes Tony D'Angelo's segments make me hungry sometimes. I don't know about you guys, but when I see some of Tony D'Angelo's segments, I get a little hungry. That's just my opinion. But nonetheless, early in the match, Tony D'Angelo got injured and had to be taken backstage, leaving Stacks to try and hold it down against three other teams from the Mud, up and comers, the Creed brothers of Diamond Mine, whom I really like those guys, and of course Carrillo and Angel Garza. Now, in this match, we saw, like I said, TD get injured, but somehow he made it back. And the fact that they did not censor him swearing surprised me. Nonetheless, he came back, and let me just say the highlight of that match was that multiple suplexes at one time. That was the best part of that whole match to me. But nonetheless, Tony D'Angelo came back to help his team win the tag team match. And besides those two, the Creed brothers are my favorite tag team in that one. Besides that other team of Bronson and Jensen, who remind me of the APA. Now let's get down to some real serious business. The next two matches were 5-star, receiving great standing ovations, as mentioned by the NXT commentator next to Booker T. First off, Dragunov versus Hayes. This is part 2. Man, this match was good. We had Dragunov coming in doing chops like Eddie Kingston. We had Carmelo Hayes with his Jersey entrance. And he was expecting to have Dragunov for the second time. Okay. The double counter was awesome. We saw Dragunov go for the coast to coast, which was countered by an attempted code breaker, which would eventually be countered again. The coast to coast by Dragunov would eventually be successful. We would see Carmelo Hayes do in-air enziguri, and Carmelo was very resilient, overcoming not one, not two, but three, H-boss, kicking out of one of them that was off the ropes. And like I said, he was great in this match as well. Awesome match. In the end, it was a third H-bar that would win Dragunov the NXT Championship. And I got to be honest with you about this one. I like both these guys, but when Dragunov won, I was like, darn. The reason why I was like, darn, was because I was really looking forward to seeing Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams go into NXT this Tuesday as the two faces running NXT. I was really looking forward to that, man. And the fact that we didn't get that, I was a bit disappointed. I was like, darn, man. But nonetheless, a great show of respect from Dragunov to Carmelo Hayes. And it had me wondering, with Carmelo Hayes losing the championship, shaking hands with Dragunov, and shaking hands with his friend Trick Williams backstage in the end of the show, does this mean that he's about to go to the main roster? Hayes, I'm speaking now. Does that mean he's about to go to the main roster? Are we about to see him on SmackDown with Lashley's newer version of the Hurt Business 2.0 until they get a new name title? I don't know, but only time will tell. But let's see what happens. And of course, imagine this. While I'm talking about Lashley, imagine this. Lashley, the Street Profits, Jade Cargill, who is set to come to WWE, who is in WWE, Bianca Belair in a faction with Carmelo Hayes. Sounds good to me. In any event, this next match, the main event match, involved the ladies. We had Tiffany Stratton, the bratty Barbie doll. Pretty Karen is what I used to call her. But the NXT bratty doll, Tiffany Stratton versus NXT Women's Champion Becky Lynch, whose t-shirt tonight gave homage to loved ones such as Bray Wyatt, Seth Rollins and their child, and a lot of other people, including, I don't know if her stylist was on there, because if you notice, while they were fighting in the audience, her stylist gave Becky a chain, and I would say Jim Ross would say Tiffany Stratton is a bratty girl who is a long overdue for a trip to the woodshed, as she got caned by a kendo stick and whipped with the chain across the backside like a very naughty girl. You're a naughty, bratty girl, Tiffany. Just kidding. But in any event, that naughty girl got punished last night. We saw tables, and of course, Tiffany, when asked for tables, gave chairs and kendo sticks because she's a heel. You're not supposed to give the fans what they want. Heels don't do that. Roman Reigns was the same way at Extreme Rules 2021 when fans kept chanting, "We want tables," during his match with Finn Balor. And instead, he just gave them chairs and said, "I'm the head of the table. I give tables when I want." But nonetheless, in this particular match they fought, we saw, first of all, it was funny seeing Tiffany get slammed on Barbie dolls and then having Barbie dolls thrown at her while Tiffany would hold up trash can lids. That was funny to me. Shielding herself. Then we saw Tiffany take a cart ride. That was also funny. I think that gave Booker T bad flashbacks of his days on SmackDown with that fight at the store in 2001. That was hilarious. I think Booker T had some bad traumatizing flashbacks. Nonetheless, Tiffany was very good in her own right, doing that China cartwheel like moonsault off into the barricade, putting Becky through the barricade. We saw her also do a senton that put Becky through a barricade also. And let me ask you guys this question. I really got to ask while I'm talking about this. Who does the Swanton Bomb better? I'm I'm tempted to say Jeff Hardy, but a side of me is also tempted to say that Tiffany is right up there with Jeff Hardy as far as Swanton Bomb performances is concerned. But I think I might have to do a short one day asking Swanton Bomb or from Tiffany or Jeff Hardy, because Tiffany does it all. She does swantons and moonsaults. We saw all of that tonight. one of which did not work well because she would end up falling on a stack of chairs, which she brought in and would take a manhandle slam version of the rock bottom, and Becky Lynch would win this match. And that match was awesome. It was like the last two matches, 5 stars. And speaking of, I forgot to mention Butch versus Mr. Dar and that World Cup tournament match. It took 6 rounds to even the score, and the last score was even thanks to some familiar foes and Gallus ruining it for Butch, aka Pete Dunne. But we're about to see some old rivalries and old wars renewed this Tuesday on NXT. But nonetheless, let me know what you thought about last night's NXT No Mercy. I really love how the intro paid homage to the original No Mercy game that came out. Now, I grew up watching people play SmackDown 2, the video game, until I got my own PlayStation 2 at 12, and I would end up playing SmackDown versus Raw 2006, winning 2007, owning 2008, and then eventually playing WWE 2K games on the Xbox 360. Man, I miss playing video games. Nonetheless, let me know what you thought about No Mercy last night. I'm your host, Dan Cody. That's all the time I have for you today. And I'll be back with another review on all things wrestling. And also, be sure to check out my short as we get ready for Wrestle Dream tonight. See you next time.